So for the creative writing section then, we've gone through all of your reading section, which is 40 marks. By now, we've got the next 40 marks to go and get. So you really must give yourself enough time to answer this question fully. We don't want to be rushing it. It's got to be well planned and developed. So make sure you hit your mark scheme here, and we'll talk about that shortly. So to read through section B of writing, you're advised to spend about 45 minutes on this section. So in an hour and 45 paper, and you've got 15 minutes to read, so 45 minutes for the reading section and 45 minutes for the writing section approximately. Make sure that you write in full sentences. You really do need to show off here your English language skills, your creativity and your grammar and spelling and punctuation. You are reminded of the need to plan your answer. You can do it on the page, that's absolutely fine, but to hit the mark scheme fully, make sure that you're not making it up as you go along. Have a good plan so that you can work towards it, and it will stop you feeling that time is rushing away from you as well. You should leave enough time to check your work at the end. Make sure you do leave enough time to proofread and put in any full stops and commas, quotation marks, anything you need to make sure that your answer is fully developed. If we look at the requirements for this question, you have 24 marks for content, then you have 16 marks for your English language. Your content mark will be your creativity. And for that, really do think about the genre that you're writing in, the audience and the requirements from the audience, which is the effect on the reader as you looked at before in the reading section. What would your audience expect to see in this answer? Think also about the purpose of your response. Why are you writing it? And what do you want to work towards as you move towards your conclusion? And your subject matter. Really do make sure that you answer the question, of course, and stick to what the question is asking you to do. But try to be imaginative in your response. When you plan your 16 marks, your language, really do focus here on your spelling, your punctuation and your grammar. It's really vital that you do have a good plan so you're not making these things up as you go along, because it's a lot to remember. Try to make sure you have an effective opening, a really engaging ending that you've planned so you're not rushing towards it or you just tack one on because you've run out of time. And make sure you use a good variety of literary techniques, whether it's language features, just as you had before in your question 2, and your structural features as well as you had them in question 3. Use the things from the reading section to help you in your writing section. The two halves of the paper aren't separated. Make sure in your language you look at spelling, grammar and punctuation and you get those things accurate. But try to include a few other things as well, such as complex spellings, some vocabulary which is not everyday vocabulary, which is spelt correctly. Make sure that you have clear paragraphing and those paragraphs link. Try to make sure you have a variety of sentences, some short sentences, some longer sentences, and vary the pacing of those, and vary your punctuation as well. Don't just use full stops. Make sure you use full stops, but commas as well, apostrophes, speech marks, exclamation marks and question marks. Try to use a range of punctuation, and that way your answer will be as high up the mark scheme as you can get. Our goal here is to get a compelling and convincing story in. So for your creative writing, as we said, you have 2 marks that you must cover. Your 24 marks, which is your content, what your story is about and your characters, but also your 16 marks, which is for your English language, your spelling, punctuation and grammar. If we look at an example here from a level 3 response, the sea was spilling in furious waves against the rocks, trying to swallow the land whole. Each clear speck of water crashed into land, wanting to escape. We have an appropriate use of linguistic devices here. The writer is using personification and adjectives, and they use intention and trying to create a picture in the reader's mind here of what these waves are doing as we're describing the waves going forwards with the story. It's really important to engage your reader with interesting and original terms and make sure that you have an unpredictability to the story, so it can't be cliched or we know exactly where it's going. Try to make sure that your story is engaging all the way through and it's sustained all the way to the end. Make sure again your timing is accurate so you don't just trail off or rush towards the ending. Make sure that you plan your paragraphs so you have a deliberate idea of where the story is going, so that you can really do focus on your English language skills so that you can produce those 16 marks as best you can. If we have a look at the next paragraph then, Rugged black rocks guard the coastline, joined to one another by all the imperfect waves. Variety of sentence forms for effect. Some of the sentences are longer and shorter. There's a deliberate attempt by the writer to create clarity and compelling, interesting scenarios for the writer to read. The important thing is here is that you are describing the story. You have two stories that you can choose from here, a describing story based on the picture or a narrative story where you create it based on the question that you were given. Obviously you only pick one of those, but make sure that whichever one you choose, you are not just describing or narrating. You have lots of descriptions into both and narration into both as well. A good, clear, engaging story well told is your remit here, is what you really want to achieve. And if we go on to that last bit, just at the end there, each rock protecting one thing, the lighthouse. That dramatic pause with the ellipsis there is done for effect. It's on purpose. You can see that that pause is dramatic and it's done on purpose by the writer to create an effect on the reader. It's these little things that are going to make the biggest difference. So really do try to consider everything. Focus on your planning, have a good idea of what the story is about, and then you can spend some time really planning your paragraphs so you can get a really good effect on your spelling, punctuation and grammar, so you can get as many marks out of 40 as you can. It's essential that you really do consider this question. At 40 marks, it needs your time, and the rewards are there if you can do it.